and this is The Spot with Zach and Vinny. It's a very special day here today. We got a very special guest for us. He's our first guest we've ever had. I'm going to introduce him as Pittsburgh's most interesting man, Barrett.
Aggressively average is the right word. I'll take that. Yeah, it's glad to be here. Fun to join The Spot for your guys' second episode, right?
Yeah, this is it. Number 2.
Number 2, dude.
Yeah, man. It's been we had a lot of fun doing the first one a couple weeks ago, and now...
Round 2.
Yeah, we get Pittsburgh's most interesting man, most interesting creep, pretty much everything you want to
There's nothing interesting about me, man. I'm an average white kid from an average white neighborhood doing...
Average white things?
Average white things, yes. To a certain extent, man, I live within my confines, to say the least. But yeah, no, glad to be here. Glad to be finally graduated from college, getting the heck out of Allegheny College. It's a great school. Enjoyed my time with Zachary there. Benny came down to visit. Jake and you as well. Fantastic. We had a lot of great times.
Shout out with that to Jake Hale. He probably won't be talking a whole lot on this, but yeah, he's here. He's present. We want him to be known.
He's one of the twins. He's one of the little Hales. Kind of a game.
Fun fact for Zach, that's one of his 4 other brothers. So
you got 4 little brothers.
Yeah, there's 5 of these Hales in the world.
I got more brothers than that. Go, you guys.
You're just something
yeah,
else.
Hey.
That's hate speech.
We want it to be very clear: The Spot does not hate against gay people.
I
felt like in the first episode, I'd tell that we don't endorse killing.
Yeah.
In this one, we appreciate you. Gay folk.
Murder's gnarly.
Wait, what?
I have murder's gnarly. That's an adjective that doesn't get used enough. Is that an adjective? Gnarly? Is that?
We're gonna go with
so
that.
So anyway.
That's an adjective. Yeah, an adjective.
Let's be a little more jaded here.
Is that an adverb?
As always.
It's L-Y?
I know Brett from school. I actually met him through a mutual friend. A kid that I played baseball with introduced me to Brett.
Sophomore year, all dudes adore him.
Brett's he's a foot fairy. He's a soccer player, but it's alright. We still like him a lot. No, he's a very, very smart guy. He's probably my best friend from school, and definitely one of my best friends in my life. Really glad to have him up here. Me and Vinny were talking, and we thought that he should definitely be our first guest, and it just so happened that he was coming up.
He's a very interesting guy, and we hope you appreciate him as much as we do.
Zach, you sound like you drink cranberry juice for a living. You get the vibe I'm going.
Cranberry.
Get the vibe I'm going here. But
it's
actually,
my favorite drink.
You're drinking. The fact that you chose a Yingling, I'm pretty honored about. I mean, being from the Pittsburgh area, Yingling's a fantastic local brew. Honestly, I grew up on it because that makes me sound like an alcoholic from age 10, but
which he is.
Yeah,
okay.
That's a genetic issue. We'll talk about that.
When I walk in on this guy funneling IPAs, it's a hell of a.
Things happen, man. You do things happen. You don't make it out on your birthday. You should happen.
That's when I knew he's the guy that I need to know. He's somebody I need to get to know well.
In about 3, 4, 5 minutes, bro. Why don't you just tell us about yourself? What you've been doing with your life, where you've been so far, all that good stuff.
So I'm an economics major. Graduated with an economics degree and a minor in Spanish. Spanish is, as much as I love being able to speak a Romance language, which I'm terrible at. It's fantastic to have, but I'm never going to use it probably outside of life in general. Obviously, that doesn't actually happen. You can't use anything outside life. But anyways, caveat. So yeah, I'm from Pittsburgh area. I grew up in my 11th small suburb right south of Pittsburgh, about 10 minutes out. You can just take the tunnels in. Grew up playing soccer, played 4 years of collegiate soccer. Absolutely garbage at it. It was a great experience.
Evidently not.
Evidently shit at. Crap athlete to say the least. But anyways, so I played 4 years there. It was fantastic. Loved it. Got to meet a bunch of great guys. I mean, a lot of my friends from school, Zach and Benny. You've met them a few times. You guys will go down there.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm just kind of in the process of looking for jobs. So anything with an economics degree, which is a very broad degree. Classic liberal arts education gives you a degree in something that's somewhat applicable, but not quite there. Just teach you to think. So right now I'm looking at jobs, trying to get into the wealth management field. Love it. Just investing's a fun hobby of mine. I love reading. Long walks on the beach, staring in Zach's beautiful blue eyes. All those fun things. But yeah, that's
the guy I'm going to hit up when I need investment advice.
Exactly, right? I'm a simple man of simple means, to say the least. Oh, man.
Yeah, so when we came onto this and we're asking, how did we want... because we have a general topic we like to go into, and the first one was how people change, and we kind of got into that. So we asked Brett, being the guest, what would you like to talk about? And he said, what, absurdity?
Absurdism. It's a school of philosophical thought. It is considered a school of philosophical thought. It's basically there's a certain type of cognitive dissonance to the fact that you realize that there's too much information in the world, or not even too much information, too much in the world that you physically cannot grasp, and there's things you will humanly never grasp. Not that they're necessarily logical; they can be obtained in some manner, but humanly it's currently impossible. So idea is that you have 3 ideas of thought behind this. You can take the easy route out and you can kill yourself and just reject absurdism in that sense, or you can reject it and act like it doesn't exist, act like you can actually learn everything, or you can take the third route and accept it and kind of be nihilistic about the approach and kind of just live your life and do whatever you guys want to do.
So that is what we'll talk about today. There'll be, obviously, don't think we're going to stick to the topic the whole time. We always kind of go off track, but it always comes back and is relevant. So, yeah, I guess we'll kick this off. Guess first here.
Sure.
What would you like to, your input on absurdity or absurdism? Yeah.
I was talking to my brother about it pretty recently. My opinion isn't too developed yet, to be honest with you. I haven't put a lot of thought into it. I think it's an interesting concept because it defines the human existence and, humanity in itself. But, I don't know. Obviously, I'm more in the accepting route. He talked about the 3 routes: reject, suicide, accept, right? And I'm more in the accepting route. I understand that at the end of the day, nothing really matters. We're an expression of the universe. I get that. Whatever. So I'll accept it and do the best I can from humanity terms. Humanitarian means I'm a selfless person, which is a joke. Not a selfless person. Anyways, so I accept the conditions that are at. I accept the means of my current existence, and I will do my best within those means. Because at the end of the day, living is a lot more fun than dying. At least so I've heard.
Mm-hmm. Yes, at least that we're aware of. None of us, nobody here's died and came back that I'm aware of. So
no ODs yet.
Nobody can really attest to truly being dead. But what do you think, Zach? What route would you think you've taken, at least?
I've been all over the map on this one. Just an interesting side fact, though. I was really intrigued that Brett wanted to do this because I thought this went a lot with how people change. And, if you listen to that one, a big theme of it was expectations and how we change and all that other stuff. And I think that this has a lot to do with it, because growing up, depending on what environment you grow up in or whatever, you're going to have certain expectations about how your life is going to play out, and sometimes those are going to be realized and sometimes they're not going to be realized. And I think that is what leads people to try to understand more about the world or find their place in the world and come into thought like existentialism or absurdism or realism or romanticism or any of those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Me personally, I've been all over the map. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there was one point in my life where I was I wouldn't say suicidal, but it kind of crept in my head. I was like, this is kind of just, what am I, what's going on? Yeah, you really doubt yourself, and everybody gets like that. You get depressed and stuff, but and I've had people in my family actually.
Hard funk to beat, dude.
Yeah, there's I don't want to say it runs in my family because I don't know if I necessarily 100% believe in that, but it has happened in my family. But when I was at the lowest low point of that little state, I kind of came to and accepted it. And it's not like a desolate exception. It's not like, oh, it's whatever. It's freeing. I think it's more enlightening than anything.
I completely agree.
What about you, Vinny?
Well, the thing, just to tag off of your point there, it's pretty, I think the thing that makes it so crazy, it's not necessarily the suicide itself, but it's just that place you're in. It's a very, very dark place. And the thing is, you're fighting yourself. Mm. Your greatest enemy, who's yourself, you're also your greatest ally. It's just crazy that you can get so trapped in that just valley, you know what I mean? That deep, deep part of your brain that just, you never want to go back to.
And you can't see the top of that valley.
No, and it definitely changes you once you're there. Because once you come back from it, man, it's amazing how that pain, that mindset, you just never want to go back to. And it makes you nihilistic in a way. It makes you just more, even, I think that's is a part of the quote-unquote, roller coaster back up to the top. You're going to go and endure.
It gives you better perspective until you forget it again.
Exactly, yeah. And then it'll bite you and you'll go back down the hill. I mean, that's life in general.
It's a classic piece of adversity. I mean, you're always stronger on the other side, basically. You're going to go through it. It's going to be rougher. But at the end of the day, if you do make it through it, which sounds, horrible to say, not that glorifying suicide in any way, but
correct.
If you are able to make it through that depressive state, you are definitely a much stronger person as a result because you are fighting yourself, which is, at the end of the day, like you said, it's your own worst enemy. You're constantly just battling every day, waking up, even just leaving your bed. It's a struggle, no matter what.
One of my friends put it to me this way one time. He said, it's never as good as it seems, and it's never as bad as it seems. Your highest highs, you're always going to have higher, and your lowest lows, you're always going to have lower. It's
the human perception of what's going on.
The other thing along with that I actually...
how we rationalize it.
Of course.
But go ahead, I'm sorry.
That I actually took away from that is what is it? No, you're good. Yankee fans, man. You see what I got to deal with?
Yeah. I don't even want to talk about the Yankees right now. At least they won on a walk-off last night, but I don't want to talk about them. They're pissing
Who's
me
that
off.
stud on their team that's been hanging?
Aaron Judge.
Dude, he's an ant. How big is he? He looks like a big
6'7", 280.
Okay, I thought so.
He's 1 inch,
25 dingers,
Think
over
about
50,
that.
like 57 ribbies.
He's like
batting 330 right now. He's just a
He's
tank.
massive.
He looks like
25. He's on pace to break Barry Bonds' home run. Now he's not going to, but that's the pace he's setting right now. How ridiculous is that?
That is ridiculous.
And Bonds is on roids. Yes, I said it. He was on roids.
And he is so athletic. Aaron Judge is so athletic.
You heard it here first. You heard
Groundbreaking news.
Put that asterisk in there,
Barry
guy.
Bonds took steroids.
No, the sky is blue, but yeah, dude, Aaron Judge is an animal. His swing too, dude, is just
It's beautiful.
It's clean. It's very clean. It's crisp. I mean,
It's beautiful.
But he's built like, for lack of words, a brick shit.
How do you think those guys feel now? Like guys like McGuire, guys like Clemens, guys like Bonds that have a very good chance of not getting into the Hall of Fame, even though they played some of the best baseball that's ever been played.
Bonds is literally all-time
and it's
home
all
run
because
leader.
of a decision that they made.
Yeah.
But
What I'm saying is, how do you think? No, like I'm not
from
saying
a competitive
like
perspective,
like I want to actually
think
know
they get in at some
how do you
point.
think they feel? Do you think some of them
I think they get in at some point.
regret it? I don't think some of them regret it.
well, here's the way I kind
I think some of them do,
I agree.
but I don't think all of them do.
So if you get to that level, you have to be ultra competitive, right? If you get to the top level, you're clearly a top athlete, A. And B, you're probably one of the most competitive people you know. You're the type of guy who gets upset over losing a game of pool.
Right.
Things like that. So these guys, yeah, it's going to hurt having the asterisk next to like, your name, but I'm pretty sure you sleep nice whenever you look at your bank account and you see a few $1 million.
Absolutely.
But from a competitive perspective, it's going to hurt. It's always going to hurt.
I grew up in the steroid era, so it's always been around. Ever since I was 9.
That's why
Was
it's
when it like they got banned. No, you know what I mean though. So like, you know what I mean. Like someone like my younger brother Dylan, he doesn't necessarily understand it because he wasn't really there for it.
Sure.
But, like my dad is always.
We grew up watching just
Yeah.
bombs get hit. We were watching some massive home runs,
God.
some
Barry
ridiculous.
Bonds
It's like we're in a more
I
pitcher.
remember seeing on ESPN all the time. He hit a walk off, hit a walk off, hit a walk off.
Yeah, we've gotten more into like a pitcher's quote unquote era, but like still, we watched like there's more strikeouts now than there've ever been in the MLB.
And
The
when
rate
this
is
was
just
all coming
higher.
out, my dad said, he said, "Listen, man, I don't agree with it, but I don't necessarily blame them." He goes, "Think about it. If you're like 30 and there's this hot shot kid coming up to take your spot from AAA, and like he's really, really good, like you're gonna get any advantage you have because exactly you want that few million in the bank account. You want to have that security."
You know what else is
You don't
interesting
wanna lose
about
your
it though?
job.
This is a phenomenon because as people are starting to learn, I'm a big MMA fan. Which tonight there's actually crazy.
Then you
Bellator
fight, don't you?
fights.
Too. You're in the MMA, right?
Dude, I'm actually in the UFC.
What's your nickname?
My next
Rey
fight
Mysterio.
Rey Mysterio.
Actually, they call me Vinny. They call me Don Vinny, the Godfather Mercedes.
I was expecting a McDonald's nickname in there somewhere, man. Now tell me about this thing.
That's my diet. Actually,
Yeah,
it's just 10-piece chickens and double cheeseburgers.
I only need
and a
McChickens
large
for
fry.
everything.
Yeah, that's how I weight
older
cut. I
sister-
weight cut on McDonald's.
Vinny's older sister just had a kid. And,
Congratulations.
she asked Vincent to be Godfather, so now we can call him the Godfather.
Yeah, you get the cotton.
Yeah, so you gotta kiss my
Kiss
metaphorical
Rick
ring.
The kid's so damn Italian, I kind of want to. But
Marlon Brando over there, goddamn.
Yeah, as I'm looking at a Goodfellas poster.
Vincenzo Rocco Mercedes III.
Did you put the Inglourious Bastards quotes?
Margaretti.
Let me tell you what, man.
Arrivederci.
I could totally be in it, man.
Margaretti.
In case you guys can't see it, I'm holding up the
Never saw the
Godfather
third one,
trilogy.
so I've never seen the third one. I saw the first and second. I loved
it
them.
was a good movie. It was not nearly as good as the first two.
It's
Not
interesting
nearly
you
as
say
good.
that. That's my first thought because I watched. Have you ever seen IMDb's top 250 movies? And it
Yeah.
shows top 250 movies of all time based off the ratings, right?
Right.
So you have a bunch of Christopher Nolan movies on there.
Yeah, he was
I'm not
a
sure,
great director.
etc. Godfather 1 and 2 are pretty highly ranked, so that's why I decided to watch them on my plane ride down. Didn't puke on this plane ride like I did in my backpack on the way back from spring break. That was terrible. The lady next to me was probably horrified. Yeah, did I tell you about that story?
No.
Oh, this is fantastic.
We gotta hear
We're on a
this.
plane ride?
Oh, it was my. So I.
You did tell me about
First of all,
it.
this is my first plane ride ever. This is my second plane ride because I'm on my way back from Fort Lauderdale. And I was out till 3 in the morning the night before, hanging out with people. We met down there. It was a fantastic time. Drinking, going to the bars. It was great. Our flight left at 7 a.m., so I got 2 hours of sleep. So I went probably less than that. I'm on the plane, and I'm in a middle seat on a Southwest airline on the way back to Pittsburgh, and I have a French lady on my left, and I have her son on my right. And I'm sitting there, and we're about to land. I was feeling pretty queasy, but it was, it's just like hangover. It's going to go away, right? On descent, it starts getting very turbulent. The stomach wasn't sitting well.
Right.
I didn't know puke bags existed on planes. This is my second plane ride. Never been on a plane. I grab my backpack, start clearing out the smallest pocket in the front. It had, toiletries or whatever in it. embracing.
I'm like visualizing.
No, this is bad, dude. I mean, I'm sweating like you know when you're about to puke. And
Oh yeah, no, your body's
yeah. So my body,
feel it.
like,
I
and
try
she
to
looked at me.
swallow
I
all
looked
the
like Casper. I looked like Casper. I looked like Casper the ghost. Like I was translucent, probably at that point. I grabbed the bag. I'm looking at the lady left me. I say, I'm sorry. And I started yakking the bagel I'd eaten that morning into the front pocket. And Bortz is a seat behind me, my friend Alex Bortz, my roommate. And he's laughing his butt off. And he's just sitting there, he's like, you moron, what are you doing? And this lady, I hear her saying French, go, that's gross. And the kid next to me is like, oh, do you want a tissue? You look like you're sweating. Like, you don't look so good. Like, yeah, no shit, I'm puking.
Do you know how many times I heard that in your house? Someone say to someone else, you moron! You dumbass!
Yeah.
Like, literally every day someone would say that to somebody else.
My family's very encouraging people, I promise. But,
No, not your... Not
talking college.
Oh, in my house?
College.
Oh, yeah, dude. I surround myself by the scummiest of scumbags.
Me and your housemates, we used to...
We were nice people to each other, I promise. But yeah, I puke in my backpack. And this lady's just looking at me like, oh, you're an idiot. And she's just, like, grossed out completely. And her son's being the nicest kid in the world. I am fully embarrassed. I'm sitting in the middle seat. They can't escape this puke that came up. And I'm just like, God damn it, land, motherfucker, land. And it eventually lands. I get the plane, and I'm just getting laughed at by the ladies on the plane, my roommates, and the people around me off the plane. They're just laughing their asses off because they're like, oh, look at that moron. He just puked his backpack.
This is the guy puking.
Yeah, idiot didn't get the puke bag.
How about that time we saw that girl in the rainstorm sitting on top of Baldwin? She must have been tripping, dude.
She could have been. I mean, maybe she just accepted absurdism, man. You don't know. Maybe she just decided to accept it.
Take the head.
Yeah, she had a nihilistic approach, man. Maybe she realized.
She took one of the other routes.
Yeah, exactly.
Is this Camus' philosophy?
It wasn't Camus. It wasn't Albert Camus. It was The Offer of the Stranger. But he was
a proponent of it?
He was a proponent of it, yeah. He had actually a famous quote on Wikipedia. I was reading a little bit before this because, obviously, hopefully you come in semi-prepared. Yeah. I usually don't. And
you've done a bunch of podcasts.
Yeah, I've done so many. You know,
podcast guy.
I'm a podcast guy.
He's like the podcast guy.
You know, this is podcast month. They're like, oh wait, is that March? There's a month where it's literally podcast month. I found that out.
There's a month for everything.
Yeah, there's Black History Month and there's podcast month. I feel like Black History Month should like the fact that I've heard of podcast month is ridiculous to me because like Black History Month should always be the one that dominates. I feel like I don't know. But anyways, back to absurdism. This that girl would probably just accept it. I mean, she was out there doing whatever she wants, man. She was having the time of her life. It seemed like he was enjoying it. The idea of absurdism, though, I understand about it, but I feel like the name in itself is also absurd, and that's dumb to say because that's being not verbose, but
well, that's what it is everything is so absurd, everything is so foreign, everything is so you're not in tune and connected with it. Well, and if it is, it's in such a negative way that it discourages any positive connection, and that's exactly what drives your way into that idea of absurdity.
Of course, but the interesting distinction that they make was that the absurdism explains that some things aren't humanly possible, but they're possible outside the human realm. Very good. Do you think that is a real thing? Like, what does it mean it's outside the human realm? Because as we know, as of right now, obviously I believe there's hopefully intelligent life outside of us because there's billions.
I would say it's more likely than not that there is. Like,
really?
I really do. I think that
there's billions of solar systems.
Yeah, it's just like it's so hard. Like, I think it's just very ignorant to not think that there could be other life form out there.
Of course, I completely agree.
They found millions of systems that have Earth-like planets, whatever that means. NASA has its own.
And even if it's not necessarily a life force like us, there's different types of life. There's no way that there's not just because we can't see them yet. Could be potentially. I would say more likely than not.
And you need to have an open mind like that. And I think that comes from this idea of absurdity, and exactly that's option 3. You just accept it and you move on. And it's when you do something like that, you just kind of understand your place in the universe, because I don't know if you can ever do that, but you just come to terms with it and accept that it is what it is, and what is not is not.
We're very tiny, irrelevant.
This is what the universe is, what it is made up of.
The infinity
at that time,
that is the universe.
All these ideas in your head, all these expectations, all these, well, it could be this way. What if it was this way? Yada yada yada. Those are just ideas. Right. You have to. It's so hard because we're human beings and we have emotion, but you have to really try and separate that. And when you do, I think that leads to a higher consciousness and a higher level of awareness.
Sure.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Do you think this is an interesting spin-off? It was the same conversation as with my brother regarding absurdism. It was, are there confines? Are there restrictions to? Not restrictions necessarily, but can you say one infinity is bigger than the other? Necessarily think about this word, right?
Scientifically, yes.
Scientifically, it's actually been proven, that there's larger infinities, which I think is It's so crazy to conceptualize. Like, I still struggle with it because it's like,
well, here's a great example.
Isn't infinity just supposed to be like never ending? So how can there be one larger than the other?
Well, here's the thing. So think about this: between numbers 3 to 4, right? Here's the way he conceptualized it to me. Between the numbers 3 to 4, the infinity is smaller than if you go from outside those confines. So because as although there's an infinite numbers between 3 and 4,
right, it'd be larger than say like between 2 and 3. Is that what you mean?
No, not necessarily in the size, but like
I get what you're saying.
So let's say from 3 to 4 and 1 to 3, there is a larger infinity between 1 to 3 than there is between 3 and 4.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
So even though there's an infinite amount of numbers that can make up that distinction between the two, one is larger than the other. And that was a concept I hadn't really understood before until he was kind of conceptualized to me in that manner.
But I get that.
That makes it a lot. I can actually visualize that.
I get that, but an infinity is not a range of numbers. It's not a domain. An infinity is never ending.
Never starts, never ends.
Exactly. So you can't say that infinity between 3 and 4 is different. I don't think you can say that, can you?
You can, because no matter what, you keep adding zeros. You keep adding zeros at the end.
But what I'm saying, what I have a problem with what you said is the infinity of between 1 and 3 or 3 and 4. How can an infinity be a range of numbers?
Because the basic idea is this. So let's say you have 1.999. You can literally
no. I get what you're saying.
How can infinity between them? Because it's never ending. It doesn't matter. That's the whole idea behind it.
No, I get that.
Okay, sure.
I guess I'm not communicating my point very well.
I'm just kidding.
I'm saying, how can a range of is a range of numbers comparable to infinity? Because I don't think those are two different things.
Well,
I do think those are two different.
Are they
things,
though? Isn't infinity a mathematical concept? So aren't they the same?
Yes.
So couldn't you say there's a lot of overlap?
I mean, that doesn't mean that they're the same thing, though.
No, it doesn't. But it means there's overlap, so they share similarities. Wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Okay, so in a sense, you can at least put the two in the same picture together. Necessarily, do numbers define infinity? By no means, yes to that answer, or no means no. Yeah, by no means does it define it. No means does it define it. But it is a way to explain it on a broad basis to humans. Because realistically, if you can't conceptualize it, what's the point of knowing it?
Yeah,
it's true.
That's a good point.
It's useless.
All right, that's a good point.
I mean, what's the point of knowing any of that stuff, honestly, for people like us, other than just to talk about it, think about it? I mean, we're not scientists who can apply it necessarily to anything that we're trying to figure out.
I think the scientific method is extremely frustrating. I have friends who work in clinical research, and the idea of just testing a theory, doing it again, and getting it wrong. I mean, there's people who spend their whole life on certain theories, especially in the medical field. Hey, can I cure this by doing X? And they come up wrong and wrong again, and they just keep having to get money to fund something that's not proving answers. I feel like that the frustration was very tough on me. I don't think I could physically handle it. Even as an athlete, like, I understand frustration, I understand adversity, but just to be consistently wrong and hoping, because there's no proof that you'll ever reach that X, whatever your X
I was going to say, that's the difference. At least when it comes to sports, the sport ends and you move on. Like, in this case, this is like a life's work. Like, This is just a piece that, and you may never prove it. Like you're saying, you could just fail your entire life trying to prove this thing.
Can you imagine failing your entire life and using millions of dollars that could have gone to something else? It'd be terrifying. It's just horrifying. That's why I couldn't leave. It's basically leaving my life up to fate, and I don't enjoy that. I like my autonomy. I like having full control. So,
but do you ever have full control?
You have a certain amount of autonomy. You can increase your level based off of wealth, I believe.
Yes, you do have control. Oh, you have control, but do you have full control?
No, nobody ever has
I think
no
it's
such thing. Nobody has full control. Nothing has full control.
There's too many other variables.
No, I know that, but I was asking that rhetorically to you because you said full control.
Absurd. Okay, full control within the confines of my life. I should define that better. You're right.
Within your ability.
Within my ability, which is,
I get that.
Like I said, aggressively average.
Aggressively average. Pittsburgh's most interesting man.
Who's aggressively
the reason we call him that
average.
is because the reason we call him that is just a very. I hate to use this term because it's an alligating term, but it's unusual combination. Smart dude. Good time. Very good vocabulary, but he's just such a jerk sometimes. It's literally the only thing that he's just such a jerk sometimes.
I've heard that before.
And he's a foot fairy. He's a Penguins fan. That's the two teams I hate. I know it sounds like I hate every sports team except for the Red Sox, but I don't. It's just the Penguins, the Steelers, and kind of the Yankees.
So don't get me wrong.
Because I respect it. I hate the Yankees, but in reality, I respect the Yankees because you got to respect.
Your neck is bulging. So, no, going back to the Pittsburgh sports comment. So, I explained this to Joe yesterday. I'll explain it kind of again. I am a big Pittsburgh sports proponent. By no means do I follow them religiously, though. My brother, Brian, huge Pittsburgh fan. He loves it. He could tell me every trade, every second what's going on in the NFL. He loves the Steelers. He's a diehard Steelers fan. That's how most Yinzers are.
That's how my roommate is, too.
No, exactly.
Steelers fan. Even though he's not from Pittsburgh, but his father is.
Exactly.
So
it's very commonly communicated to people. So, I'm more of a soccer fan. Like, I can tell you anything about soccer abroad. Like, I know more than I should ever know in my life, and it's useless. I know it's useless knowledge. but I enjoy it, and it gives me happiness.
Right.
So thus I accept it.
Yeah, exactly. If it makes you happy, then that's all that matters.
Exactly.
You're not hurting anybody with it, so.
Well, people always kind of demonetize it, though. You always get this kind of concept that why do you know what Mark McGwire hit in X year?
Yeah.
It's like, and people say it's useless knowledge. To a certain extent, it's right, because it's not...
In the grand scheme of things,
It is, yeah. It's not progressing humanity. It's not helping in any manner. So to a sense, it is right, but it gives me enjoyment. I enjoy knowing this much about a professional's career because I watched them when I was an entire kid. You know the same feeling.
Yeah.
You guys all know the same feeling.
Right. Because when you've played the sport, too, you know how truly difficult that is. And when he pulls something off like that, it just goes to show the level of talent, like how much better they were at it.
But I guess...
Like how great they really were.
I guess the people that make that argument, though, that say, like, oh, knowing that stuff is useless, I guess... I don't know, maybe I'm assuming too much here, but I guess what they're trying to say is, like, you could spend your time doing more worthwhile things. Yep. But, I mean, in the end, nothing really matters. So, enjoy your time doing whatever it is you want to do.
Really matters.
So there's an economics rationality actually behind that. So the economics idea is people think rationally, right? And first of all, that's a lie. Nobody thinks rationally. I sure as hell don't think rationally. Anyways,
what is like thinking rationally, right? What's truly what is rational?
Societal norm. Current societal norm.
It's completely subjective.
I think to be truly rational, because a lot of times rationality and reason go against human society. So I think that it would just be the depletion of emotion, just eradicating emotion, or I guess not allowing.
Well, that's turning it to be completely objective.
Not allowing emotion. Well, that's the point.
So you're doing a black and white response.
Well, if you're talking about like reason and rationality, like how Socrates talked about, like being just, like that's what it is taking that personal emotion out of it.
Well, I mean, here, so really think about this. Like what we would consider rational, and let's say like a psychopath would consider rational. Now we think that's just so crazy because they think differently. For example, there's been a study that's actually been done in psychology. I can't think of the name of the study off the top of my head, but I just know that it's been referenced in a lot of Dr. Paul Ekman's works.
Sure.
And what he said, not Ekman himself, but what the study said, right, is a psychopath and a normal person, obviously you could tell they think differently, but this is how they were able to kind of prove it. So, a normal person, right, they would show, and they were trying to trigger emotions, they would show... a baby, right? Something like that. People just naturally like love to see. Who doesn't like seeing a little like kid smiling, or you see something. Yeah,
I was just gonna say
that's why you're a psychopath.
Part of me cringed when you said that. Like
kid smiling.
Yeah, I was like,
that, dude, that's
you actually tested to be psychopath.
What does that say about us? We're awful people.
I don't like small children. That's not saying anything. I just don't want children in my life.
So something like that, or something happy, or something that would trigger that emotion of happiness. Sure. If you usually see people smiling in a photo, you have a tendency to mirror that, the mirror neurons.
Of course.
Put that image to yourself. So people would smile, right? That's what a normal person does. Whereas if they saw somebody tied up, who was being tortured in a prison camp, they would just show like Holocaust photos or people being tortured in like Vietnam. They would show these things, and normal people would cringe. Some people wouldn't want to see it at all. They would just be disgusted and scared by this. Now they did this with a psychopath. And the person who was being tortured and beaten, they showed signs of arousal. They showed literally showed arousal. They were turned on by that. Whereas when they showed the smiling baby or people smiling, they showed signs of contempt and anger. Mainly contempt, which is even more scary because that's an emotion that can generally be played on like terrorists. A lot of suicide bombers have been shown in the moments before they do this. They show a lot of contempt in their like threats. Yeah, contempt is the emotion where actions like that happen. Yeah. Anger, sure. Disgust, you think people are more below you, but contempt, more than anything, is just you think these people are beneath you.
Sure. Well, you said that. Yeah. Weren't you saying that I don't know if they proved or there's a theory that. Well, it's more than just a theory, is what you were telling me. I know that rape's all about power.
Rape, yeah. So another psychological. So that's what rape really is. It's not even necessarily about the act of sex itself. I mean, it's definitely, obviously, a huge factor, but it's more about the power in it. There's nothing more primal, right? Like, think about something that's never changed throughout, like, time, from cavemen to now, is really, has sex changed at all? Maybe like the ways to make it more protected in some ways.
Gender culture's definitely changed. I mean, here's the idea.
Right, but I'm talking the act itself. Like you are in that moment. Has it changed?
I mean, it's always be animalistic. It's a biological drive.
But exactly that.
Has it changed? I think it's been romanticized. I mean, we talk about romanticism.
Right, but that's.
But the actual act of doing it, like
I'm
objectively.
Yes, I agree with you there. I think the act
itself. Okay, let's think of the idea of
the reproductive way.
Doggy style. Why is that so common across a broad base of species? Like that is very common, for a lack of a better word, sexual position.
Right.
Why is that so common? Because it is an animalistic drive. You see it across, and literally it's called dog.
Yeah, so for example, with that position, just for example, has that changed from cavemen to now? Probably not. I'd say a form of it. They might not have called it that.
The build-up's changed. The motive hasn't. The logic
that was...
Right.
I mean...
Right, I agree with that. But the act itself.
I mean, that's what we... thousands of years ago, that's what people did, though. Like, they wouldn't do, like, all these other ways, I mean, there's so many positions now, so I guess that has changed, but, like, the actual acts, I got...
Right.
I mean, I don't...
Wait, we've gotten more creative with it, but at the end of the day, you're trying to achieve the same thing, essentially, which
you're
pleasing you're achieving a sexual desire.
And
like
honestly, because obviously I think a lot of this absurdism idea comes from people falling out of love or getting told that someone doesn't love them anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a breakup. But what are some other areas do you think could lead... I mean, we're never going to cover them all. There's so many things.
Because I wanted to tie that
is absurdism right there, by the way. You just literally just said we can't cover them all. That's literally absurdism.
That's so funny. But okay, so what's the answer to absurdism? I think it is
the way
be the person you can within your ability, which is exactly.
Is there an answer or is there a response? Answer meaning that's conclusive. Response meaning how you react. I think it's a response, not an answer. I don't think you can ever. Answer
okay. That's a better way to put it.
I don't think you can ever truly answer absurdism.
You can never answer anything.
I had a curious question for you. You're talking about the psychopath study,
yes.
Vinny, and so a lot of terms we use, especially autism, is a common one because it's more highly diagnosed nowadays.
Correct.
So the way they always put the word is, and I've used this before, is spectrum. They're on a spectrum because you're not just like, it's not binary. You're not just autistic. You're a different level of autistic. You think psychopaths have a different level as well? Is there somebody who's more of a psychopath by our definition than somebody who is, let's say, less of a psychopath? Like,
yes.
A most and least psychopath, per se. Like, you can put
so someone like Charles Manson, high level psychopath. Like, the dude had like a swastika on his face. Like, that guy thinks so much more differently than the common person. He's the type of guy where somebody walks down the street, he wants to kill him just because he gets off on him.
Remember that interview I showed you?
You know what I mean?
Boxcar with jug of wine.
Yeah,
I'm a nobody.
He was too much facial expression.
But what I always think is more interesting when it comes to being psychopath is the whole nature versus nurture. Some people just born with those chemicals, but other people can be formulated.
Why does it have to be one or the other?
It's
not this or that. It's this and that.
Correct.
It can be. I think it can be both, and both combinations together.
I agree. I completely agree. For example, somebody like Ted Bundy, right? Suicide bomber, Oklahoma, huge. But that guy's incredibly intelligent, right? Like what he did was horrible, but very well thought out, very methodical, very smart. It was just the act itself, what he was trying to achieve, was horrific.
Stalin, is he a monster or is he a genius?
Well, he's a monster by our idea just because he killed so many people. However, the way he did it was efficient. I mean, it wasn't, the act itself, again, it's terrible, but what he was trying to achieve was terrible, but how he did it, it was efficient. So in that regard, yes, I see what you mean. Is he a genius or
how much undocumented absurdism occurred then? Like, think about, like, you have a farm and literally soldiers come in and say,
you don't like 5-year plans?
Stalin fucking told us to come get you and take you out of here, give us your stuff. You're going to go do what we have to do. Like, you're just totally changing on. You have no control over your own life. But I mean, that's been a well-documented thing, like the book 1984. I just gave it to my brother Jake to start reading.
You were doing well.
One of them, it's one of the most popular books.
George Orwell.
Yeah, is protagonist Winston or it's
Winston? Yeah,
Winston, dude, he loves gin. Great guy. So you both just made an important distinction there.
I'm glad you didn't bring gin, by the way.
Yeah, I know, dude.
I almost bought us a bottle, and I was like, not a good idea.
Psychopaths drink gin. Stupid statistic, because I don't think that's real. But anyways, what I was going with this was you both made an important distinction. You realize that there's good psychopaths and bad psychopaths. For instance, they always say this one stupid statistic that CEOs are more often than not psychopaths because they find a way to climb the ladder. They're extremely intelligent, they're extremely efficient, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. So there are good and bad psychopaths. So when you hear that term, especially when your kids hear that term, or even young children, they recognize and say that's a bad term. When necessarily it could not be. Like I'm sure
they put a negative connotation.
Exactly, there's a negative connotation. I'm sure there's beneficial psychopaths in the world that you or I have never noticed. In fact, there was this doctor I recently watched this is stupid on Twitter, of course. There was a doctor who studies psychopaths, right? He sees the physiological resemblances in the brain chemistry of a psychopath. Interestingly enough, he studied his own brain scan unknowingly, and he figured out he was a psychopath. And yeah, it was exposed, right? This incredible doctor was a psychopath, like incredibly intelligent, contributed so much scientifically to society, found he was a psychopath, but had no idea prior.
Do you know the name of that study or that doctor?
I can't remember. He was Middle Eastern or Italian. He looked very Mediterranean, but incredibly intelligent guy. He was on a talk show talking about it.
Well, and it's even like there's a I'll even apply this to even sports. There's people that are crazy like in that regard with sports. a lot of people love him and joke with him in MMA. Again, I'm a big MMA buff, so I'll use McGregor as an example. He has a pretty, big quote of his, which, it's not true in the sense that he's saying that he's not talented. He's incredibly talented, but the quote goes, there is no talent here. We are all equals as human beings. Talent does not exist. I am not talented. I am obsessed. He said, this is all like hard work. Yeah. I'm talented. I'm not talented. I'm obsessed. And he said the reason why he's so good is just he's so... And he's I've listened to other interviews, and he's literally said, I'm just crazy. I love fighting so much. I'm crazy. Yeah. Like, he says it. Like,
but how many people...
How absurd, is that, too?
Like, there are people that are like that, though, that never made it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. And and that's why he's wrong in the sense of saying he has no talent. Like, yes, the hard work gets you to be a champion, but you got to have some level of talent to be a UFC fighter.
You can't be
UFC's the cream of the crop fighters in the world. Like,
I think to accept absurdity, you just have to accept the randomness of it. You know what I mean? Like we were talking about baseball last time. Like, I busted my butt in high school trying to think I was going to try to make myself.
See between 2 episodes now, he's really upset he didn't make it, guys.
No, I'm serious. I am. Like, I think I was meant to do that. Like, mentally, like, maybe
you have the mind for the game,
to do that.
Firmly grasp it.
Firmly grasp it. And I thought that if I busted my butt, I would get there to, like, an elite player. And I made myself better for sure, but it never happened like that. And it's just like, all right, well, some dude was just like me out there that did bust his butt, and it did work off, and he got there. Hey. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is, it's gray. It's not black and white.
Broken dreams are fun, right?
They're necessary.
And this is what brings you down into pure and utter insanity.
They're great for adversity.
That's what I'm saying is you have to just accept it, because a broken dream is a reality. It didn't not happen. It happened. Well, it did not happen. It did not happen.
My way I always put it was, yes, I'm trash in my sport. I always wanted to go pro, but I know that realistically, dude, I am meh at soccer. Comparative to the world, especially. So you're right.
Well, yeah, if you're going to compare yourself to, like, Lionel Messi.
No, of course. But I'm saying in terms of the world, like, yes, I'm a better athlete probably than the average human being, but I'm by no means special like Conor McGregor, Cristiano Ronaldo, any of those stud athletes, any of your best athletes. And kind of going back to what you guys said earlier, yes, a lot of it is hard work, and it truly is. I mean, Bill Gates said, like, if you're born with nothing, but you end with nothing as well, you didn't try hard enough, essentially. I just completely butchered that quote, probably, so don't take that.
Yeah, but you got the basic premise.
No, exactly. The basic premise is that your effort and I forget what the other term is, but basically it's effort and work rate. It will literally define who you are. And to a certain extent, that's true. But when it comes to sports, undoubtedly there are limits. I think it's also limits intellectually for certain people as well. Obviously, I will never have the same intellect as Einstein or any other top geniuses in Mensa, but I recognize that if I work hard enough, I can understand similar topics to a similar extent as they can, but I'll never have the natural talent to it.
Just getting back to the Bill Gates thing you said.
Sure.
About if you born with nothing, you die with nothing.
What's your quote, by the way?
Well, no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, saying no.
I think you can always too, but it was the same idea.
You can, like, people say that about like African Americans that, like, live in, like, low income areas, poor neighborhoods, whatever. They say, they could just get up and move out and make their life better. Yeah, they could make their life better, but it wouldn't be not everybody who did that would be able to become a CEO. You know what I mean? They would just improve their. Well, no, but what I'm saying is, for sports, for anything intellectually, like you're saying, you can always improve, but there's not an unending point. There's not an infinity to it. And depending on your abilities and your environment and all those other things that affect who you are and what kind of calculation you are at that point, that has an effect on it.
Sure. You have to think of it this way. So you use the African American example. Another classic example in contemporary culture is women in the workforce, right? They're trying to become equals, which they should be treated as equals.
Of course. Well, we all should be treated equal.
Exactly. Everybody should be treated equal. That goes back to the African American point. So even though they can work as hard as I can, let's say I'm born with equal talent, equal work rate as the same person, right? And he's of African American descent. Right. He has a predisposition due to contemporary culture, due to the way America, the rest of the world really runs, because of racism and other variables such as that. He can't achieve the same thing, and that's horrible. I think Bill Gates' quote is meant to say that in an equalitarian world, meaning we're all equal in every sense of the word, that those who work harder will achieve more. And that's true to a certain extent, but however, there are certain confines.
We aren't all equal in that.
We aren't all equal.
There's just different levels of talent.
Some are more equal than others, is the classic quote, right?
Right.
So
a good thing is, like, Joe Rogan did in his stand-up the other day, like, talking about guarding the White House. He's like, women shouldn't do that job. He's like, you know why they shouldn't? I can't do that job. So he's like, that's not sexist to say, if I can't do it, I don't think you should.
His most recent Netflix special that he's got going up.
And we went and got ice today at Walmart,
Oh, yeah.
and the lady, that stands there and greets you, she was talking to another lady, and the lady saw us grabbing the ice, and she was like, "Oh, do you want a cart?" And the other lady said,
They're big, strong boys.
"No, they're boys. They're all right." No, she didn't say big, strong. She just said they're boys. They're all right.
Dude, I heard the adjective strong. Or maybe I'm imagining because my ego needs it, but
I know it's that because I was just like, what would have been if we were girls? Like,
Right.
why has that got to be different? It's a bag of ice. Like, I get that there are differences. You know what I mean?
It's different levels of testosterone.
But like, you
which gives
can't.
us more
That just
strength.
bothers me. You say people are the same. Like, no, black and white are not the same. That does not mean that they should not be treated the same because they're human beings. All human beings should be treated the same no matter what. But what I'm saying is like,
You're
you
frothing.
can't ignore that people are different.
You're frothing at the mouth. You got aggressive there. I like it.
I got really aggressive.
Seething.
No, I know what you mean. Like, there's just indefinite biological, like, physiological, like, differences. But, like, I know what you're saying.
At the end of the day, I'm born to be more muscular than a woman because
Because we have more testosterone
Yes,
pumping through
absolutely.
our body. Like, if we give them testosterone
Your
and
body's
give me more
more-
estrogen, like, yeah, they're gonna, like, eventually...
I
Like,
just hate how people
It's
throw
it's easier
around.
for you to build muscle than it is for a woman.
Correct.
Just because of
It's-
biological confines, and that's the truth. Again, there's limits to it, and that's
Right.
another part of absurdism. You have to accept the fact that you will.
that doesn't even mean that,
never
like,
be
there isn't a woman who
physiologically
can't be
equal.
strong.
But
But
I've
certainly are.
Yeah, as I say, I've seen this woman at the gym I used to train with, incredibly strong, ex-Navy.
Lindsay?
No, she was.
Lindsay's a badass though.
She is bad.
Not this Lindsay.
No, the lifting coach. No, she was an ex-Navy personnel. I don't know exactly what she did there, but she was incredibly ripped. Like, I've never seen somebody squat as much as she did. It was incredible. And I've seen a lot of bodybuilders. I'm sure you've seen a lot of bodybuilders.
Mhm.
This woman was absolutely incredible. And people think that automatically saying that women can't be strong by any means, but no, they truly can. But
Absolutely.
the confines are different. There's
Right.
They have different restrictions than I have, or that you have, or that anybody else has.
Absolutely.
Right.
Remember, everything's subjective in life. There's no such thing
We're
as a binary
sexist
answer.
here on the spot. We're just explaining the obvious because I think a lot in society it's just so like getting to all these extremes, right? There's just a lot of like extreme views and like it's one of my problems like with modern feminism really is just like not a woman can't do anything a man can do and a man can't do anything a woman can do. Like that's bullshit. And I hate that that's like a common like
Misconception.
belief in today's society.
Sure.
It's like no, come on. Like there's being realistic too. Like within
I
are we
can't carry a
talking
child.
like intelligence? Absolutely. Are we talking like? But when you're talking like physical characteristics, like the world's strongest man is going to be substantially stronger than the world's strongest woman. Just substantial.
Just like the
It's
other
just how
day at
your
the gym, I
biological
saw.
makeup is.
I saw this girl she's my height.
She'd still be way stronger than me.
She's literally 2 inches shorter than me. She's 6 foot tall. She's
Right.
thick, like not thick in a bad way. Like she's a well built girl.
Thick with a K.
Yeah, thick.
Pull the tongue a few times there.
He needs
And
that in a good way.
she was struggling to bench 85 for like 2. Like she did it once and she couldn't do it again. Like dude, I would
Remember her weight?
throw. She's got to be like 140.
No, you remembered. You
150.
remembered the weight though.
Well, it was
That's-
210s, so it was 85. Because I sat there and I was like, "Wow, 85." I was like, "Dude, I would throw 85 around for like literally like 75, 80."
I was just going to the fact that you remember
reps.
the weight. That's a very
Like,
interesting detail.
so
to remember.
I was just thinking, I was like, "Yo, if me and her, like, if I had to like fight her in the wild, like, not that strength is everything. She could hit me with her. You know what I mean?
Kill her.
Like,
Right, you're talking
be
as McGregor says,
No.
unarmed combat.
I
Yeah.
always try
Yeah.
to look at things from an evolutionary perspective, and I think that's why
You're
last time
so
I was a little.
contemporary.
I wish my statements could have been a little more jaded, but I always try and look at things from an evolutionary biological perspective because that is what we are. We have a lag. Our bodies right now are meant to be 50,000 years ago. That's from most. That's a well accepted.
I disagree with that statement completely, actually.
Ooh,
Because
I've-
I want to hear. Okay,
okay, you already
what's
seen
your opinion?
biological lag. You realize that over X amount of years, you've still been evolving, right? Like your brain is more efficient with dopamine and everything. Like when you say biological lag, I understand what you're saying to a certain extent, but you also have to remember, I mean, the confines are still okay. Confines is no longer allowed to be used. Let's say that the restrictions are still the same. You still have flesh, you still have bone. However, your brain's more efficient. The chemicals you can produce, your ability to fight disease is different. You are the most evolved version in this current era.
Absolutely.
So, what do you mean biological lag then? Because I need to understand the difference
Okay.
here.
I guess I'll give you an example. Like
Sure.
like how women like what? Why do women like taller men? And why do women do like money. Men like money. Women do like money, but
Who doesn't like
hold
money?
on. You always hear that in society that women always chase the money. Gold diggers, whatever. Yeah, some women do, but it's about that power, right? It's so. But if that wasn't true, if we were always caught up to date right now. you would see women. That's what they would be attracted to. Would be money because that's a security. But
They do,
like
they are.
50,000, yeah, they are, but not all women. But it's more about the power because 50,000 years ago, that's who it was. They wanted to be with the best mate who had the most power.
Motives never change. Logic does. Motives never change. Logic does. The logic behind it. He's more powerful.
And
than
you're
his money.
absolutely right. But what I'm saying is I'm right too. I'm saying it
I agree.
applies for both.
I agree to that extent. I mean,
Like there's subconscious things that like 50,000 years ago, like we still act on. Like why? I guess maybe it's more sexually is what I'm getting at.
sure. I mean, as a result that you're a more evolved society, aren't you going to have different means of? I'm going to say confines again. I'm not using that word. You have different means, different logic regarding power. For instance, you just displayed the fact that they would go after the bigger men, right? The more powerful one, because that was what it was. They could protect them. That was a biological factor. But now you're going to the fact that there's money. That is an evolution to a certain extent. You're starting to see that.
Yeah.
And not first of all.
Well, and now it's more supporting,
Yeah.
like a supporting factor as opposed to like a protecting factor.
And women
Well,
aren't all gold
supporting.
diggers. That is important.
No, that's not what I'm saying. No,
that's
it's just an example. Another example would be like, what's better for you to eat? Veggies and grilled chicken breast, or McDonald's and Arby's every day.
Oh,
Hey, dude,
Okay, maybe eventually we'll get to the point where
Don't hate on my weight cutting diet, dude. I cut
maybe
great
eventually
weight
we'll
with,
get to the point where
McDonald's your favorite? Sorry.
McDonald's is my favorite.
Oh
Yes.
God. But yeah, I go to McDonald's, man. I leave there and I leave there with my bowels in my hands, to say the least. When I go into McDonald's, man, I do not feel good coming out the other side. Taco Bell, on the other hand, I recognize that it is terrible meat, terrible ingredients, but I love Taco Bell. Mm-hmm. I can pound 5 beefy 500 burritos in probably a minute, and that is a disgusting skill that I'm proud of. I'm not aggressively average in that sense, by the way. I'm going to say that. There are some skills I'm aggressively great at, and that is eating Taco Bell is one of them.
Let me tell you, that's a skill
that's a resume builder. That's a resume builder.
You should put that. Some people, like, my favorite one is when you can see, like, type, like, I don't know, this is just to throw a number, like 500 words in a minute or something. Like, they have that.
WBM, words per minute.
Insane.
Yeah,
That used to be a very common thing on applications.
I saw that. So when I used to work at Darien Lake, right, like, part of my job was...
Darien Lake or Darien Lake?
Darien
Oh, so it's one word.
Lake.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Darien Lake.
And it was an amusement park. Obviously, people from around here know it. But I was a supervisor in the attractions department.
Sure. Yeah.
And part of my job was promoting people to team leads, so people would actually run the attractions, like the rides themselves. Like, not roller coasters, but certain attractions that you basically had to pay for.
Of course.
So anyway, part of that, of doing that, like when we were hiring people, we would get that on resumes. Like, somebody threw that
Words
on
per
there,
minute,
like, how many words? I'm like, how is that relevant to what you have to do to operate a ride? You put words per minute on it. I'm like, God damn it. Like, I think they were doing it just to be kind of funny and like
I hope
there
so.
too. I was just like, this is so irrelevant though. It's just
But
like
some people
laughing.
do
I'm like,
put that
it's
on.
impressive, but it's like you're not gonna have to type anything.
You have to remember, resume is supposed to be able to reach a broad base of individuals. So the resume, words per minute, could have been used across a different range.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a guest. Nick Dudman. Shout out to Nick Dudman.
No beer in his hand, though. Real loser.
We can fix that real quick.
I'm sure that will be fixed.
What does he drink? That is not a Schwitz. I could have told you that as soon as you grabbed it. I'm sorry.
You can sit down and
It's that or the Yingling, and I'm just keeping my Yingling.
Yeah, dude, you like...
Dos Equis or Yingling.
You like the Pittsburgh River Water.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's most interesting man, as we're
Dos
drinking
Equis.
Dos
Yeah,
Equis.
Yingling's fantastic.
I don't know his drink.
I don't drink.
He once parallel parked a train. That's always my favorite.
Interesting.
No, it's like, what? Conceptualizing a parallel parking a train, like, just so funny.
That's the thing, though. You thought about him. That's why it works.
Oh,
Same
yeah.
though, the $5 foot long and the fillet of fish. 2 incredibly successful ads. Because you remember them. Like, can you do the fillet of fish? Give me back the fillet of fish. Give me that fish. You remember that, though, don't you? Or $5 foot long.
It's kind of
$5 foot long.
Exactly, you remember it. That's the one. Old Spice commercials. They're incredibly random. How do you sell deodorant, man? Like, McDonald's, yes, exactly.
Advertising.
You can have it your way. Burger King? Anyways, so Old Spice commercials, it doesn't matter what deodorant you use. No offense, you're going to smell good as long as you use deodorant. Please use deodorant. As long as you use it, you'll smell great. But
The Spot, trying to prevent smelly people since 2017.
Are you going to use the one that has a great ad, or
shit.
are you going to use the one that's called Speed Stick, or has like the general brand?
Capitalism, you know what I mean? Vinny put it to me really good one time, like
Sure.
you were talking about a Nike lawsuit or whatever. I think you're talking about something. I know it was with Nike, but anyway, like you said more or less that when you spend $100 on a pair of shoes, you're not buying the shoes, you're buying that swoosh, that brand.
You're buying the logo.
It's the
you're
logo.
buying the name.
It's,
you're buying the power.
It's the idea of it.
Like, okay, for example, I just got glasses recently. What did I go and buy? I could have bought cheaper glasses, got the same lenses. Right? I could have bought cheaper frames. No, my ass gets Ray-Bans. Why? I love the name. I love the brand. But it's just one of those things where it's like, did I really like, would my eyes be any different by wearing those frames? Not really. I mean, I liked how they felt. I like how they look, but I also I've always been a big Ray-Ban Oakley fan. So I
owned by the same company, by the way.
What's that?
They're a monopoly in the glasses industry. That's why glasses cost so much. Actually, it's not actually the product goes in, and also it's kind of the same idea. You have Pepsi has.
I think Ray-Ban though. I feel like they're like
the premium
real ones are
eyes,
actually
right?
made in Italy. I think the lenses are produced in Italy.
Maybe, but
imported. No, they are because my other one, like everyone, it says made in Italy. Like I don't. I'm pretty sure they are.
Do you perceive Ray-Ban to be the premium brand, though, right?
In my eyes, yes.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So it's the same idea what Pepsi does. Pepsi has a variety. Pepsi has their hand in everything, by the way.
Oh God, yes.
Like any food product, any snack product you've ever eaten.
There's stuff that you wouldn't even think Pepsi would be a part of in their end.
Same thing with GM and Chevy. They have a. Yeah, first of all, American cars are ass. Sorry, American cars are made like garbage. Anyways, so. I have a Ford, dude.
He's an economist. I would trust his opinion.
I also have a Ford.
They're made differently, and I accept that. But here's the idea. So GM has a variety of brands. The way their company story, my dad explained to me, was you work your way up through the different brands within their company. The more income you get the more income. The higher your income level gets, you'll climb to the brands quicker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you start out with a Pontiac, or Pontiac always no longer continued. Terrible brand. Thank you.
That's why it's not continued.
I have a beer still. I'm good.
No, you don't.
Anyways, so they basically you progress through the brand, right? And the idea is to keep you within their family, but they have a premium end and they have a crap end. Crap is a strong word. Those cars still function. They're on 4 wheels and they have great gas mileage. My car, not so much.
What type of Ford do you have?
2006 Explorer, man. That thing it's seen better days.
Explorer.
Yeah, dude, it's a gas guzzler.
Yeah, they are.
When I started going to DC about 2 weeks ago.
Pretty reliable though.
Oh, they're fantastic, reliable, great car. So it went from 12.9 miles per gallon to about 17.4 in the last 2 weeks. That's fantastic for me because then I'm not putting, $8,000 into every time I pump gas. But the car's still trash. But I enjoy it. I have a car. I can get around. I can come visit you guys.
It's a means to an end. Yeah, get you from point A to point B.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I recognize that hyperloops will be better when they're actually invented by it. That is an extremely interesting concept. I read a podcast on that. Podcast inside of a podcast, but the podcast on that.
This is like Inception going on
right now. Podcast
Just keep doing podcasts.
Anyways, Hyperloop will forever change transportation along with Uber and any other ride-sharing service.
Yes.
So back to what we were talking about.
I kind of want to get into that a little bit. So wait, what are you?
Hyperloop is an efficient underground railway system that transfers. The one they're trying to build is from LA to San Francisco.
I've heard of that.
So it's 350 miles, right, to traverse.
You want to hear another one? There was one that was supposed to go from Abu Dhabi to Dubai, but it's not this one's above ground. Yeah. And it's just a tunnel that they did above. They said that the way how fast they were trying to get this to go, normally that's like, I'm definitely going to screw this up and overshoot.
Sure.
It's supposed to be like 8 hours normally, or something ridiculous.
No, that's right. I remember this was in the podcast.
And this one, straight up, it could get you from Abu Dhabi to Dubai in like a half hour.
It's like 30 minutes. Yeah, that's the point.
That's how fast this goes. They can cut down an 8 hour trip to like a half hour. Like from here, they said you could, under this system they're trying to develop, could take a train from LA to New York City. You would get there in like 45 minutes.
You could have people live in Florida, live in California, live anywhere in the country and work in New York.
That was the goal. They're like, yeah, you could live in LA and work in New York and then get back.
That's actually one of the issues. They can't go long range. It's something to do with the physics behind it, and I'm not great with it.
That makes sense. You can't burn it out.
It's so, that's like, come on.
It's
like,
incredibly efficient.
Fast, and like that's going faster than like planes and shit. Like that is some speed.
Well, think about this. You could literally
speed's what we need. We need speed.
You could have dinner
Thank you, Rocky, Mickey. I love it. Great quote.
You could have dinner in DC and then have dessert in Boston. That's like the example they give. The people are going to use it for luxury leisure at some point or another.
Right.
Those systems are absolutely incredible. So right now, maglev trains, like the ones they have in Japan, the ones where literally magnets are pushing off each other. Mm-hmm. So the trains, for lack of word, is floating above said magnet because of the polarizing force. Anyways, so those max out around 200, 300 miles per hour. This train would go around 700. They were trying to hit 500 technologically right now, and then move up from there.
Yeah, I would say the goal's 7. I've heard that.
But 500 miles per hour, that's absolutely incredible. That is incredibly fast.
Oh, so fast. And the thing is we'll get there. I believe it. I think we'll figure it. I mean, think about how we've, technologically, how we've moved on from,
last 20 years.
Horses just to, cars and to planes and how fast planes can get. And
it's exponential.
It's exponential.
Moore's Law.
Technology is exponential.
Moore's Law, I don't think it's applicable, but I just said
it's exponential.
It is. I mean, think about it. 20 years ago, computers and internet weren't better, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, first of all, that's very terrible estimate, because I have no idea. Anyways, so 20 years ago, computers were really becoming more mainstream.
Became personalized.
Yeah, it became personalized, exactly. And now look where you're at. You literally, your phone is a personal computer.
It is a computer.
You do everything on
these
you.
Aren't phones. These are computers.
Exactly, they're personal computers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was explaining to you.
10 years ago, the first iPhone came out.
Look how
iPhones
far
are everywhere now, and look how far they've come along, and how quick they are, how
Blackberry,
interconnected
They're still dominant over the market. Yeah, BlackBerry.
Blackberry,
They
goodbye.
I
Those
remember
are
like when
supposed
the
to be the
Voyager.
early
My
days.
daddy's that one. Oh, those are fantastic.
I remember when the Voyager and the Envy and the MV2 and 3 came out, and those were the dopest
Razor.
phones.
Remember the Razor?
The Razor, the
Oh,
Crazer,
man, the Crazer,
The
yeah.
Crazer.
That was the ultra thin Motorola.
the
Dude,
V-Cast.
I hated those phones. I had an MV1 and 3, man. Like, the MV1 was
Yeah.
a tank. I remember my friend.
I used to have the Envy Touch.
You had the
That's
MV
what I
Touch.
had.
You had the
Yeah.
nicer one. That was towards the other end.
I
And
like
10
the
years
Touch.
ago, you'd have cell phones that were like a brick, dude. Like literally half the size of this box. In the
Nokias,
90s,
dude.
and the fucking
Yeah.
They can
90s.
stop. They can stop
Huge.
bullets. Those things can stop bullets.
Maybe I'd carry one around, when I'm walking around Buffalo.
Think of
Not the best
Bibles.
So
area.
there's that common like myth that some guy got shot and like he had a Nokia in his pocket protector
Mhm.
and it stopped a bullet. I think that's just BS and that's like somebody just making a joke about the phone's like physical qualities.
Right, how sweet. Yeah.
That'd be cool though.
I mean, it's a
because
cool thing to put on a, your marketing campaign. Like, this
Those-
actually, you probably don't want to do. You get lawsuits if
Yes,
some dude
seriously.
gets shot, it hits that and dies.
didn't save me.
Dude, we tried it. Some hick from Alabama.
Yeah.
We tried to shoot through it, man. I killed Ricky, which is like his third cousin twice removed. And he got
That's like Super Troopers. Have you seen Super Troopers where they're shooting at each other? They have the Kevlar cup on. They're shooting at the Kevlar cup. That's exactly what I just imagined. He's like, oh, let's see if it works, guy. And he shoots his balls out. He's like, oh, it didn't work. Well, no shit.
Are you saying meow?
Yeah, right.
Do I look like a kitten? Am I sipping milk from a saucer? Oh, niddly widdly.
Saucer. That's a highly underused word. I'm gonna use that word.
Saucer.
It's like we were talking about earlier. Words go out of use.
They did.
Like
Words
gay
out of
means
use.
a lot different what it means today than it did in the 50s.
Do you think we've ever had flying saucers around here?
Very well.
No, in the past. All these allegations that people think they see things in the sky.
Or are they
I
just
don't
met?
know. I think it's you're
Or
never
they're
gonna
on-
know.
That's also very true.
You're never gonna know because here's the thing: you can never base
I don't
something.
know.
So
off
do you
what
think though
people
that the
say,
government could
but
be
it could
stopping that?
It could.
That's a
or it
legitimate
could
conspiracy
be.
theory.
It could be true, but it might not be true. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I shouldn't say we'll never
Well,
know.
stuff
For all
like
we know, we
that,
could just
stuff
get
like stuff
invaded,
that's not
but-
mainstream that you can't prove. Like you just have to take all the context you can and look into it.
Mhm.
Exactly, absurdism. It's
It's
too
absurd.
big. Like yeah, I can say right on my shelf over there. I got 5 JFK books about the assassination.
That's
I got
absurd.
2 DVDs right in here.
That's
I've read
also
many more
absurd.
books.
You're absurd.
I can't prove that. I can
We're
only
all
take
absurd.
stories. I can only take testimony and evidence.
Testimony and evidence.
Testimony and evidence.
That was a good combination of words. Testimony. I think is I must.
And I can
question
make
that.
and I can sit here and say that yeah, man, I really do think because I really do believe that Oswald did not act alone. But do I know that for a fact? I can sit here and read all the books I want and spend all the time and
Where's
believe
the
it as much as
brain,
I want,
man?
but does
Where's
it
the
make it
brain?
true? It doesn't necessarily make it true.
That's right.
Ideas and expectations do not make anything true.
No hard facts. Where's that?
So, and that's kind of getting back to absurdism, actually, which is a good point. So, I kind of want to get back to that. So, how do you deal with it?
I accept it. I just do whatever I want. I told you earlier.
But describe the beast. Give me some
Describe
shade.
the beast.
Give me some shade.
I mean, at the end of the day, my favorite line is, "At the end of the day, nothing really matters," and that's true because no matter what, I'm going to return to the ground or return to the atmosphere or wherever I originally was from. I mean, you hear the stupid line that every girl loves that. We were all stardust at one point. It's like, yeah, no shit, but that doesn't make you special. Because the idea is, we talked about certain.
I'm not special. I'm not extra.
The universe
are only
recycles
special 'cause
itself.
We've made them special.
Exactly.
Are
Well,
they
the universe
really
is
special?
recycling
No.
itself, though. Think about it.
Yeah.
That star blows up, it's going to build another star, another planet, another other, because the mass is still there. The mass never was destroyed. It's still there.
Mhm.
And in regards to my absurdism, I just realized that in the matter, at the end, nothing really matters. And that's fine with me. I do my best. I enjoy my best life. I try to have my most fun. I try to learn as much as possible. I try to make sure that no matter what, everything I do is happy. Not to say I live a protected life,
Mhm.
but I try and, stimulate my senses as much as possible, to put it bluntly.
See, he's trying to stimulate his senses, and here I am going into sensory deprivation tanks
Yeah, dude,
to
that's
try to
wild.
completely get rid of my senses.
Exactly. That's true, though. I mean, well, you aren't getting rid of all your senses, though, because your brain's still intact. I mean, whether you think that's a sense or not is a completely different animal,
Well,
obviously.
that's the whole point of the tank. Is so that the idea is
Well, your own
that
thoughts.
you completely get rid of all stimuli, so your brain has to just focus in on itself. Like,
Yes.
all you're doing is focusing. Like, you're trapped in your
It
own
goes
mind.
crazy.
And it's kind of scary, because, like, your worst fears are all going to come out in that, but it's good for you. It makes you, like, realize all that. And, yeah, there's the whole people do see things, you can hallucinate. Because, again, your brain is just within itself. Like, it's just you.
Mhm.
And you're wherever it goes, wherever that rabbit hole is, that's where it goes, and that's
It
where
becomes reality.
you can't distract yourself from it because all your senses are cut off. You can't hear anything. You can't. Literally, gravity's taken out of the equation too. The pull that gravity has on your body because you're floating. That's the whole point. And it
puts so much salt.
And you're in there for it's more. It's like 10 times more dense than like Dead Sea. Yeah, it's crazy. Like you couldn't drown in that thing if you wanted.
You gotta say it's 10 times more dense than density.
No, than the Dead Sea.
Oh, okay.
Dead Sea. Cause it's like, I guess
that is a verbose statement.
No, that's because it's.
I recant that.
Because it's, I guess that's like the saltiest water in the world.
Yeah, you can float there. No animal can live there. That is bullshit. Don't take that for fact. I pointed the microphone when I said that as if he was like listening to me. But the Dead Sea has for lack of better words, a shit ton of salt.
Yes.
It's supposed to be very good for your skin. That's what's exfoliate. I guess.
It is. No, it is. Once you are out of it, it's very good.
I don't exfoliate, man. That's for the birds.
It's for the birds.
Whatever that means. That's an old-fashioned saying. That's something went out of fashion, at least.
But yeah, no. So it was a. But yeah, no. That's funny. I'm trying to increase stimuli, and I'm just totally trying to get, like in that case, get rid of it.
Sure.
It's good for you.
It is good for you.
It is creepy though. You're going into just this dark little
hole.
Confine. There are bigger ones. If I go back, I would try a bigger one, like just because it was
size
pitch
matter
black.
that though.
It doesn't, but like for some people, they know it, like subconsciously, like
is it claustrophobia thing?
Right, like some people know it. That it's like, oh,
say man, if I can't see how big it is,
box. Yeah, you can't see how big. It's like me, it didn't matter. I'm like, oh well, it doesn't matter how big it is because I'm not gonna see.
Yeah.
But some people, it does matter to them. They're like, just because they know it. Like it's a psychological problem. I mean,
they came in
it's more psychological than anything. Yeah.
Of course.
It's not actually like a physical. Anything physically different. It's just all in your head. So.
Everything is at the end of the day.
How absurd is that? Phobias. There's another example of absurdity. Just weird, irrational fears.
Stop it! You're scaring him, Patrick. Claustrophobia. That's the line I remember still to this day. Is that SpongeBob line goes, he's saying Squidward's claustrophobic, and Patrick starts like making Santa noises at him. Anyways, yeah, it's real fear. I completely understand that. I get claustrophobic at times, not like severe claustrophobia, but to the point where if I am in for instance, cats love getting into boxes. I can never be a cat. They love going to like small, enclosed spaces. Dude, it freaks me out. I like being in a plane like next to people freak me out. It's just like an aluminum can in the sky.
Foxes and coyotes just dig little burrows. Rabbits dig burrows.
Foxholes. That's the term, foxhole. Yeah.
Yeah.
Foxhole.
Last time I had this much fun, I was pinned down in a foxhole by the North Koreans.
That's Foreman?
That's a Freaks and Geeks quote right there.
Is that show with
That's a throwback.
It's James Franco when he was younger.
Yeah, he was younger.
Seth Rogen, yeah.
Rogen was younger.
Yeah.
There's another one in there, pretty famous. They had a lot of like famous people in that show that like turned out to be famous like after it.
Brennan.
It's part of the reason why the show was so brief. I think it was only like 2 seasons long.
Talent was recognized.
Yeah, and then they went on to do
bigger,
better things, so to speak.
Danny McBride, also ridiculous. I would think of Seth Rogen and James Franco. Danny McBride always comes to mind because he's in the movie This Is the End. Is that what it's called? Yeah. I just think of the scene where he's talking about masturbation and I was just laughing.
These group actors are pretty good. You ever seen Rapture-Palooza? The end of the world. What's that black dude that always acts with them? The big black dude. He's in Pineapple Express, Hot Tub Time Machine.
I can't remember, Chris something.
He plays the devil, and it's like the end of the world when the apocalypse comes, and all the good people go away, and it's all the shitty people, and he's like trying to get after like this girl, and he's as the devil. It's hysterical, dude.
Oh, yeah.
See now? Here's another example of absurdity. How much we're entertained by these fictitious events.
It's stimulating. It stimulates your emotions.
Exactly. And it's exactly.
Just like politics, advertising, politics, anything like that. That's how they get you. That's because that's what we all are. We're just emotional beings, and that's back to the rational thing. Is because what is rational? Rational, because it's impossible. Like it goes back to the perspective thing. You can never see that pen dropped the same way. If if I was to drop this pen, we would all see it differently, even though we would see the same thing. So like. Everybody is different. You have to take everybody's perspective into account, but also understand that those perspectives don't mean anything. Like, you can't have just a base rule. Like, there's no fixed rules all the time. And that's what rationality, like, kind of is it says, how close can we get to that? I think, at least.
Right. No, I agree. I agree with you. I understand where you're coming from. Dang, so what are we working on now? We're at about an hour.
Hour already?
An hour, jeez.
You know,
Time flies.
these jerks didn't wish me happy birthday yet, but it was my birthday.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I was
at one point I was gonna say that, but Zach decided to kick it off on this time on the show, so I let him.
You don't fucking
let him
matter,
do
shut
it.
up.
What's that?
What do you say?
I said you don't fucking matter, shut up.
Yeah,
we're getting rid of this podcast. We're doing it tomorrow. We're just gonna get rid of this one. Episode 2 will be out after tomorrow. We're gonna do it here without
Get
Brett.
this guy out of here.
When he leaves, we're gonna do it again.
This is our actual test run, you know. You just want to make sure that
Hour-long test
the
run.
bugs.
Sometime.
Yeah, we really want to see how long this could go, but
Ooh, I gotta urinate eventually.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's that time.
probably is. All
Anything
right.
else you want to sign off on?
I'm not Pittsburgh.
Besides, I gotta urinate eventually.
He goes.
Hey man, that's going to happen regardless. At the end of the day, I'm going to eliminate waste from my body, and that's one of the methods I choose to do so. And by choose, I mean biologically within my confines. But no, beyond that, I'm aggressively averaging every facet, and I'm glad to be on here.
I'm aggressively
I'm
average.
glad to have you, buddy.
He is Pittsburgh's most interesting man, regardless of what he says. He is the most interesting man I've ever met from Pittsburgh. Granted, I haven't met a lot of people from Pittsburgh,
Exactly,
but
man. Nobody wants to.
nonetheless, it applies for me.
Pittsburgh's a good town.
That is a great town. It's good piss.
Very good.
All right.
It is beautiful.
This is the spot. We'll catch you all next time.
That's Brett Barrett, Zach Hale, and Nick Diamond walked in. Thanks for talking, guys.